Hi there, I'm Michelle the Painter from Berkshire Paint and Sip, and this is Paint and Sip at Home. Alright, so today I'm going to be painting Northern Lights and I'm going to be sipping on a little Pinot Grigio. And if you do enjoy this video, I hope that you like and subscribe to my channel and that you also check out my Patreon page where you're going to find additional painting perks. So let's get painting and let's get sipping. Alright, so for my materials today, I'm going to be using a stretched and primed 16 by 20 inch canvas. If you're painting along with me, you can certainly switch up the size, but that's what I'll be using. I'm going to be using acrylic paint today. My colors are titanium white, cobalt blue, Mars black, purple violet, burnt umber, which I'll call brown, fluorescent pink, and chrome yellow. And of course you can switch those up, but that's what I'll be using. For my tools today, I have two brushes. I have a 1/2 inch wide flat bristle brush, and I have a number 5 round brush, and I'll refer to these as small and large as we go through the painting process. And again, you can switch those up too. If you're painting along with me, you're probably going to want to have a cup of water for washing your brushes, as well as a paper towel for drying your brushes. And down below this video, in the video description, I have a couple of additional resources for you that can help you through your painting process. One of them is a link where you could purchase the same paint kit that I'm using, from the large canvas to the brushes and the paint and the fancy palette I use and all that good stuff. So that's there for you. There's also a link where you can download a free image of the final painting. So you can print that and use it as visual reference as you go through the painting process. And there's also written step-by-step instructions down there for you as well. And that's all we're going to need today. Alright, so what we're going to do for the first step is we are going to be painting our sky, or at least the first step to our sky. We're going to be using our large brush, and the colors that I'm using are black, purple, blue, and white. And how I'm going to do this, I'm going to be going left to right with my colors. I'm going to start dark at the top with black, then I'll transition into purple, then blue, and then a little bit lighter as I come down towards the horizon line. I'm going to be bringing my sky down about 3/4 of the way down my canvas. So what I'm going to do just to start, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of purple on my brush, and I'm just going to give myself a couple of markers so I don't go past that way. So you can pick your halfway point just by sight. If you say, okay, maybe this is about my halfway point, or I should say you could pick your quarter way by sight. Here's your halfway, and it's about halfway between there and the bottom is your quarter way. And just make yourself a little mark. You could use your brush as a measuring tool, come along to the other side, and make yourself another little mark. That can just stop your eye and stop your brush from going farther than that when you're doing your sky. So I'm not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to pick up some black and purple to start my sky up at the top. And the reason why I'm using both of them at the same time is because it will help for my transition into that purple a little bit easier if I've already got that purple on my brush. So black and purple, the black will overpower the purple, but when you start coming down and start adding the purple, like right now I'm just picking up purple without washing my brush, you will be able to have an easier kind of gradient going into it. Now, because we are using acrylic paint, your paint may look streaky or scratchy, and if that is not appealing to you, you can certainly do a second coat on your sky. Once we've got it all done, you can dry it and then do a second coat. I might get away with just one coat, so I'm just going to keep going this way. I stopped painting because I wanted to tell you I picked up purple and blue the next time that I loaded my brush. So right now I'm starting to transition with the purple and blue. I'm probably going to go purple and blue on my brush at the same time for quite a ways down my sky, because I like the way that they kind of transition with each other. You could just alternate those colors if you want. I just picked up some purple, and maybe next time I pick up a little bit of blue. So you can really have a lot of fun with the way that this sky kind of gradually goes down towards the horizon line. Still right now I'm just kind of picking up purple and blue. In a little bit I'm going to start picking up my white with these colors so that way I can transition down towards that lighter horizon. But as you can see, every now and again I just kind of bring my brush with a full stroke all the way left to the right, and that way what happens is it allows me to not get what I refer to as cut marks. Cut mark to me is when I can see my vertical direction of the bristles. So I like to just kind of give it a nice smooth brush stroke to avoid those. So right now I'm going to start picking up a little bit of white with my blue and or purple. And again, you can certainly turn this into whatever tonal value you want. If you want it lighter or darker, feel free to adjust it accordingly, but I'm going to try and get it nice and light as it goes down towards that horizon line, just so it looks like the lights that we're going to be, the northern lights that we're going to be incorporating into it are almost kind of illuminating the bottom of the sky as it's coming up from the earth on the other side. So you can, again, utilize your lightness or darkness however you want to, but I'm going to get mine pretty darn light at the bottom. And then after you've got that first coat on, you make your own decision. If you want to do a second layer, you can go ahead and do, let the first layer dry for a couple minutes and then go ahead and do a second layer. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do on mine. I might let it dry for a minute and make that determination. But at this point, if you're ready to go on to the next step, we will be using this same brush for the next step. So you'll just want to wash it and dry it and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're going to do the first layer of our stream. So I'm going to be using my large bristle brush, and I'm going to be using the same colors that I used in my sky, which are black, purple, blue, and white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first give you a couple of markers, and we'll just make some markers, and then we're going to connect those, and then we're going to paint it in, and by the time we're done, we'll have something that resembles a stream. So I'm going to use my big brush. I'm just going to put a little bit of purple and blue on my brush, and I don't need much. This is just going to give us kind of like an outline. I'm going to come down from where my sky is, maybe about 1/2 inch to 1 inch, and I'm making myself a little mark that's maybe about 1/4 inch tall, something like that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come all the way down to the bottom right hand corner of my canvas, make myself another marker, and then I'm going to come about 1/4 of the way in from the bottom left and make myself a third marker. So something like that. Now I'm going to connect this top to here with a very messy kind of jaggedy line, something like this. And then I'm going to connect this top to that bottom right corner with the same kind of thought process. I just kind of want just a really jaggedy type of line so I don't have one solid straight line. And then I'm going to color this in. I want it to go from dark to light, but I'm going to start the darkness at the bottom. So the bottom's going to have a little bit of black in it. And then as I move my way towards the top of it, I'll be making it lighter. So I didn't wash my brush. I'm just putting a tiny bit of black and purple on my brush, which is how I started the top. And I'm just going to start the bottom just like that. And I'm just going left to right. And we're going to have a bunch of stuff on top of this water later. So don't worry if the water isn't as perfect as your sky is. I just picked up a little bit of blue and purple as I'm transitioning up my water. I think I want that bottom to be just a little bit darker. So I just put a little bit more black on my brush. I want it to be evident that that bottom is nice and dark. So I just added a little bit more black onto my brush. Now I'm going to use that blue and purple as I make my way up towards the top of the brook, or the reflective part that would be reflecting the sky. And I'm just using a left to right motion. I am going right up to that outline that we created. So it looks like it blends well together. And now I'm going to start to use a little bit of white on my brush with that purple and the blue. And you can see I'm not doing anything fancy here. I'm just trying to get it to transition to a little bit lighter of a color. Now you can start to see it getting lighter and lighter as it's going off into the distance here. And then we are going to be using this same brush for the next step. So once you've got your water on here, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. Oops. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we're doing the first layer of our land. I'm gonna be using my big bristle brush, and I'm gonna be using brown and white paint. So I really just want this to be the dirty undercoat of the snow that we're gonna be putting on later. So I'm just using brown and white. I want my line where it meets my sky to be a little bit uneven. So I'm just going to kind of, wherever I want it to go, maybe I make a little hill here or a little hill there. I'm using the brown and white on my brush at the same time, so I have some natural light spots and dark spots. And I do want to make sure that the entire top is in the sky, so that way there's no unpainted canvas between my land and my sky. And I'm not using any fancy brush stroke. I'm kind of just using a loose left to right type of brush stroke. But when you could do circles, you could really do whatever brush stroke you want, because it's just going to be the underbelly color of our snow. But when you get to the water's edge, you want it to meet in a kind of a natural way. So you don't want a really straight line. So I'm just going to kind of utilize this left to right brush stroke. And if I accidentally bump into some wet paint from my water, I'm really okay with that. I'm just going to let it work its way into my land color. And again, every time I reload my brush, I'm just picking up a little bit of brown and white, and this is going to provide me with a really nice base coat for my snow that I'm going to put on later. And then I'm going to do the same step down here in this area here. If yours ends up darker than mine or lighter than mine, it's okay, because again, it's just the undercolor for our water. And then let's see, what are we going to do for the next step? We are going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got this first coat on your land, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. Okay, so we are on to a super fun step. We're going to be putting the stars in the sky. So I'm using my bristle brush. I'm going to be using kind of a little flicking type technique. You could use a toothbrush. You could use your small brush and make 1,000 little dots. You can really apply it whatever way you want. The way that I'm going to be doing it, it's going to put millions of little tiny dots on there. So I'm doing the stars now because when I look at the northern lights, they are apparent in kind of the atmospheric clouds that are in the sky, but the stars are way, way above them. So in my opinion, the stars would have to be higher in the sky and almost behind the northern lights. So that's why I'm going to do them now. The method that I'm doing is very messy. So my hand is going to get messy. My wall behind is going to get messy. So if you're going to do the same method I'm doing, just be prepared. It gets everywhere. And I'm okay if it lands in my land or in my little waterway, because we're going to be covering that stuff up anyways. So how I'm going to do this is I'm just going to take my bristle brush and I'm going to dab it in my white paint, and then I'm going to kind of wipe it off on the side of my palette. I don't want a huge glob on it, and you could even kind of test this out on a piece of paper or somewhere else if you're nervous about how it's going to go on your canvas. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the tip of the brush and my finger, and I'm just going to kind of flick it. For me, my bristles allow me to do this, but I have to be really, really close to the canvas, and I'm getting thousands of tiny little dots. Every time I feel that I'm running out of paint or it's really hard to get the stars on there, I do just reload my brush. I think I need more paint because I'm not getting as many stars as I want right now, so I'm reloading my brush. And if you have too much paint on your brush, you might end up with these little like squiggly streaks, but that's okay. You know, maybe you have some shooting stars off in your sky. So you go ahead and put as many stars on here as you want. This is, to me, a really, really fun step. But sometimes it takes a few minutes just to get the amount that you want. And I'm just keep on keeping on until I've got my entire sky just filled with these. Oops, see, I just got a little streaker there, but that's okay. It looks like I'm going to have a nice shooting star within my sky. And again, you can keep going until you have as many on here. If you want, you can also, I just got an accidental big one, but if you wanted a couple of big ones, you could take, sorry, I'm having too much fun. I was going to show you another method, but you're going to have to wait a minute because I'm having too much fun. If you wanted a bigger one, you could take your small brush and the butt end of it, you could put some paint on it, and you could do a couple of bigger ones if you wanted to have a couple of bigger ones throughout the sky. So you just have fun, make as many stars as you want to, and then we are going to use this large brush for the next step, so you'll want to wash it and dry it and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are painting our, I'm going to call them our back trees. So these are going to be the trees that are way off in the distance at our horizon line. I'm going to be using my big bristle brush, and I'm going to be using black and brown paint. I just wanted to kind of look far off in the distance. I don't really want much detail to it. So I'm going to put a little bit of black and brown on my brush at the same time. And I'm not going to be terribly concerned about it being really clean looking. I almost want it kind of out of focus. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of rub it at the horizon line right above my snow line. And then I'm going to just, in a loose, out of focus way, put some representational pine trees back there. So here we go. I've just got a little bit of brown and black on my brush, and I don't want it super tall. I don't want it to take away from the focus of what I'm going to be putting my front trees on. So I'm really just going to kind of utilize that in a loose fashion. I feel like I have too much paint on my brush, so I'm wiping it off on my paper towel. And then I'm just going to kind of sit and make these little, almost like shrubs or triangles that are going to come up every now and again. And again, I just want it to be loose and interpretive. I don't want it to look like anything in focus. I really just want it to be an out of focus kind of representation of maybe some pine trees way off in the distance. And then we are going to be using, let's see, what are we going to use for the next step? We're going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got these out of focus back trees on here, you can wash and dry this large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're painting the northern lights in the sky. So I'm going to be using my bristle brush, and I'm going to be using all of my colors except for brown and black. So I'm using pink, yellow, purple, blue, and white, and any combination thereof. I might even mix myself some custom colors along the way. I do know that the assortment or the display of northern lights can come in any color and in any shape. So it really is atmospheric movement. So think of loose clouds just kind of moving through the sky. It can have a pattern to it. It can come straight up with a curve. It can be wavy. It can really take on any form you want. But what I do notice when I'm looking at various pictures of them is they seem to be kind of brighter as it's closer to the ground. So whatever direction you want to have your lights in, or the lights that are kind of glowing the clouds, if you have them brighter at the bottom or closer to the land, that's going to make the most sense. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to do it in a series of layers. I'm first going to kind of put my pattern on there, and then I will build from the light part up to let it kind of float up into the sky. I'm not going to use white initially because I want my colors to look translucent and I want you to be able to see the sky behind them. As soon as you start using white, that's going to change the opacity of the paint and you might not be able to see through it. So first, just use your translucent colors to get your pattern on there, and then you can start adding a little bit of white to lighten the value of them or to get those brighter areas on there. So if I haven't scared you enough already, let's start. So I'm going to use my big brush, and I think to start, I'm just going to kind of utilize these four colors, which is blue, purple, pink, and yellow, to get my pattern on there. And again, I can kind of use any pattern I want, but I'm going to start with a little bit of yellow. And for me, I think I'm going to have mine kind of coming out of here, almost doing like a little bit of an S form and just kind of trailing off into the sky. So I'm going to start with maybe my main one in through here, and I'm really just going to utilize this translucent paint to give myself kind of leniency as I'm creating my shape. So I think I'm going to have this one going something like this, and then I'm just going to kind of brush it out so I don't have very firm lines. So something like that. I'm going to pick up some more of the yellow to get maybe a second one in through here in a similar kind of pattern. So something like this. And I'm not using a lot of paint. I really just want to kind of give myself an idea of where I want my pattern to go. But you can certainly, if you want to use a lot of paint and get yours really thick at this point, feel free to do so. But again, I'm just playing on the cautious side to start. I think I'm going to put yellow and blue on my brush to do this top one. And I think this one I'm going to have maybe coming like this, and then maybe getting bigger and just kind of going up into the atmosphere over here. And then maybe this one is like a squiggly line coming down here. And again, these can be in any shape you want them to be. They can really take on any form in the sky. And now that I've kind of got my idea of where I want it, now I start adding my colors into it and getting it more bright and vibrant. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of pink. You might find that you want to have yours in a much different color palette. Maybe you just want yours to be green, so you use blue and yellow. Maybe you want a ton of pink in yours. Maybe you want yours to be purple. But for me, I know that they're going to, in essence, kind of go up, kind of dissipate as they go up. So I'm just getting my vibrant tones on here right now. And then I'm going to start moving my brush in an upward direction. But right now, just kind of getting these on here. And you might get this on the first shot and you might say, oh my God, I just love it the way that it is, and just leave it that way. But if you feel like you still want, more movement or more colors and stuff like that, then that's where you just kind of keep building it up into the atmosphere. I think I'm going to put some blue, some purple and pink on my brush to get this little guy over here. I think now I'm going to start bringing my brush in an upward motion to get this to just kind of disappear up into the sky. And I want movement in mine, so that's why my lines are nice and wavy. I think I'm going to put blue and yellow. I'm going to make myself like this pretty kind of teal color. You can mix and match. I might make a little bit of a peach color in a minute. I don't know. I'm just going to have some fun. I just added a touch of white as well, so I can get this to be a little bit more vibrant in through here. And then I think I'm gonna just bring this up in here, give myself some movement into that sky. And you can see I'm just playing at this point with the direction. I have picked up a touch of white now that I know the pattern of my lights and where they're going. So I'm utilizing blue and yellow and white and just kind of getting this to almost go in an upward motion on some of these, I'll call them cloud waves. I keep feeling like this is a piece of a brush, but it's not. It was where I flicked a big star earlier. So again, I'm just kind of putting some of any color on and then just kind of dry brushing it almost into its light and filling the atmosphere with its colors. And you can see I'm not using a lot of paint, and this is looking yummy. I like it when these colors just kind of start working together. I'm going to start to use a little bit more white as I'm coming down towards this area that's going to be nearing the earth a little bit more. So I'm not washing my brush. I really want these colors to look like they belong together, but because I'm not using a lot of paint, I'm maintaining the control over it. But if you find that you're doing this and you're like, oh my God, it's too muddled, I have too much paint on my brush, then certainly you can wash your brush and kind of go from scratch. So I am trying to get the lightest part at the bottom of each one of these little waves, these northern light waves, but then I'm going to try and pull up those light colors. So light at the bottom, and then you can just pull up those colors until they kind of meet that atmosphere. But I'm consciously trying to not overdo my sky because I really want to be able to see the stars in the sky too. So again, have fun with it. Make it your own version of the Northern Lights. This is not a replication of any specific photograph. This was just my interpretation, so you can certainly make your own interpretation. I'm trying to decide what colors to use right now. I think I'm making another of that pretty like teal color. I like that, so I think I'm going to put a little bit more of that in through here. I don't know, it's speaking to me. So you can certainly, again, feel free to have fun with these colors and make it whatever you want. And I'm just kind of pulling these colors up into the sky, putting the little wave part, again, is the brightest, and then I'm just utilizing almost like a dry brush type technique. I think I'm going to put some more blue and yellow on my brush to get this to be a little bit more vibrant up in through here, but without overdoing it. Yeah, I'm digging that. And then maybe a little wave in through here. I think I'm going to wash and dry my brush at this point because I want a little bit more maybe pink to kind of start representing itself. So I just washed and dried my brush, or like a little peachy orange color, so I can take my yellow and my pink and I can mix them together, and it's this really cool orangey type peachy color. So again, you have fun with your colors because I know that I do. So whatever, is speaking to you, that's the direction that you want to go. And if you come to a point you're like, oh, I colored my sky too much, there's too much, I can't see my sky underneath. It's okay. Just roll with it. There's no right or wrong when it comes to a display of the Northern Lights because they all can be in different intensities. You can have them really, really powerful. Some can be really, really subtle. So don't feel that if yours doesn't look exactly like mine, that it's not correct, because that's not the case. And again, here, I'm just kind of bringing it up from that little cloud wave. Yeah, I'm liking this orangey kind of color in here. I think I'm going to put a little bit over it and through here. And you can see I just keep playing until I've got this into the realm that I want it to be. I think I'm going to pull some of my pink and my purple over in through here. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm going to these colors, they they get me going. I like some colors. And then when you see them, when you see it come to life on your canvas and it brings a nice happy feeling to you, then you know that you're doing something right, because it's really more about the feeling of joy when you're painting as opposed to what it comes out looking like. So just enjoy the process and you will enjoy your painting. When you start to enjoy the process of creating it, then it almost doesn't matter what it looks like in the end. So I am just going to continue to keep tweaking mine until, yeah, see? That's what I'm talking about. Sometimes you just put a tiny bit of white on your brush and it brings it to life. I think I'm going to pull this maybe a little bit, curving it, yeah, something like that. And then just with my dry brush, just kind of pulling these lights up just a little bit more into that atmosphere. Yeah. I'm digging this. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of maybe keep tweaking mine a little bit. Maybe you feel like yours is the way that you want it to be, but if you want to keep tweaking it, yeah, I'm gonna put a little bit more up here. If you want to keep tweaking yours, feel free to do so. We're gonna use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got yours, wherever you want them to be, you can, it's so pretty, you can, sorry, now I'm not going to be able to stop painting. This is one of those steps, sorry about that. Once you are done, you can just wash and dry this big brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we are finishing our snowy land. I'm going to be using my big brush. I'm going to be using white because we have snow down there, but I will also use the colors from my sky too, because I want there to be little bits of these colors in the snow as if they're reflecting onto the snow. And I'll probably also use maybe a little bit of black too if I need some gray tonal value in there. So for me, I'm going to have it kind of brighter along my edge of my water and maybe up in through the top of the land in through there. So I'm going to start with just white on my brush just to kind of give myself the information of where I want it the lightest. So because I have this darker under color, I really don't need to do much in order to get some good dimension in my land, but I want to kind of give a little bit of information that maybe it's a little bit of a hill, maybe it then kind of dips down here and it's a little bit brighter towards the edge of the waterway. So I'm going to do light at the top to tell people that that's the top, and then it's going to get darker as it comes down the hill and maybe a little bit of extra brightness towards the edge of where it meets the water. And you don't have to put it bright at the exact edge of the water. If you put it near the edge of the water, that's going to almost make the little lip of the land look a little bit more three-dimensional. So something like that, and then maybe I've got a little bit on this side as well. And now that I've got my brighter areas in there, what I'm going to do is just take the remnants of my brush and just kind of rub it on here. Maybe a touch of black too, just to put a little bit of gray value in there. So something like this, just to give myself some varying tones and shades in there. And we still have some of that original color, but I like putting a second coat on. Yeah, that's looking good. So I've got my bright at the top, some bright at the bottom of the land, and where it hits the water, and then I've got the rest coming over here. So then what I'm going to do is I want to have some bits of the color from the sky in my snow as well. So without washing my brush, I'm just going to kind of wipe it on my paper towel, and I'm going to start popping in some of those bits of colors. So maybe I pick up a tiny bit of pink, and maybe I put, because I got pink over here, maybe I put little bits of pink on my snow over there. Maybe I've got a lot of, my oranges, this kind of orange. Maybe I put just little bits. I'm not going crazy with this. I just want the hint of some of these colors in through here. I want a little bit of purple maybe maybe some purple and pink, so it doesn't look just dark. So I've got a little purple and pink on my brush. Oh, I like the pink. I'm going more pink. I don't know, I just like it. I like it on the snow. It really is reading as these are some great, you know, maybe little flecks or reflections from the sky. Maybe we'll go with some of that greenish blue or just a little bit of the blue. We'll put, I don't know, maybe some of that over, yeah, something over here, maybe over here. And again, I'm really not doing much, just kind of putting some of these little cute flecks in through there. I think I want some pink over here too. The pink to me is really telling me that these are, you know, parts from the sky just coming on down. Maybe a little bit of that yellow. Yeah, something. And I'm not really making it, you know, a mirror image or anything like that. We're going to have trees and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, that looks good. So that's all I'm going to do for my land. I'm going to be using this same, I say that's all I'm doing, but I'm going to put some more on. I'm going to use this same brush for the next step. So once you've got your land all nice and done, you can just wash and dry that large brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're putting the reflection in our water, or we're finishing the water really. So I'm going to use my big bristle brush, and I'm going to use similar colors. And this time I'm going to be a little bit more conscious than I was in the land. The land I just kind of sprinkled in some colors here and there without really caring, because there's lots of variables in the land, whereas the water would be a more reflective image of what's in the sky. So I'm going to pull some of these bright colors directly below. So I'm going to use my peach, yellow, and white, and I don't need it to be perfect, but you kind of, if you can do anything with like a similar motion as you have here, it's sometimes really tough to go upside down, but if you can make it happen, it's a really cool way to, right now I'm doing a little bit of this. It's a really cool way to tell the story of it being reflective, and it is water. It's giving you a similar image to what's up above. But if the water's ripply, it can certainly be distorted when it comes to that particular reflection. So don't feel like it has to be perfect, but if you can get some of those colors to be similar, then that definitely helps to sell the story. So if that's that, then this is going to be this one, and again, it's upside down, so it's really difficult, and I'm going to try and do this like this. There we go, and give myself some of this pink over here because I really like the pink. Something like that, get it in that water. And again, it doesn't have to be uber perfect, but if you can translate some of that similar pattern down into the water with the similar colors, then it really, it's really fun and allows the viewer to understand what they're looking at. So I've got that in through there. And then this is just gonna kind of hide off in the corner here. I'm going to just put a touch of that purple and pink maybe down in through here. And then before I call it that my water is done, I'm going to wash my brush real quick, and I'm going to pick up a touch of black or black and brown. I never told you what colors I was using on this step, but it's all my sky colors and black and brown. So it's like all the colors on my palette. But again, I just kind of was using your colors might be different because your sky pattern could have been different than mine. So whatever colors you used in the sky, that's what colors you would utilize in the water. And then I'm putting a shadow along the edge of my snow in the water. So I have a tiny bit of black and brown on my brush, and I'm going to just move my brush left and right, just right along that snow edge. I don't want a really firm line. This is just, again, giving the viewer the information that the snow has a little bit of height to it. It's either casting a shadow into the water, or it's maybe a little bit of a reflection, but if it was a reflection, you would want to use a little bit of white as well on the edges, but that's looking pretty good to me. I'm going to go all the way down to my little corner here. And if you felt, let's say on this one that, you know, if it's coming around the corner a little bit and you felt like there could be a little shadow here, then feel free to put it going in there. You probably don't need one around here because one, we're going to have a big tree, but you know, utilize whatever method you feel is going to make it look realistic. If you want your water to have more movement, you could certainly add some left and right light strokes if you wanted to, but I think that looks pretty good on my part. So we are going to be using let's see, we're going to use the big brush for the next step. So once you've got your water done, you can wash and dry the big brush and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're going to do for the next step is we're putting our foreground trees, our front trees on the first layer of them. I'm going to be using my big brush and I'm going to be using black paint only. We'll be putting all the colors on in a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of put them in place. We're going to be doing sticks and all kinds of stuff to fill in our ground also. So after you get done this step, if your ground still seems a little sparse, don't worry about it. We'll correct that or add to it in a little bit. So I'm going to use my bristle brush. I'm going to be using just black paint. In order for my brush to be in control, I like to squish it on the side of my palette. That's going to bring my bristles together. And I'm going to have my trees all different heights. I'm going to have some on this land and over here. So I think what I'm first going to do is just give myself some place markers or tree trunks, I guess one would normally call them. I think I'm going to have this one pretty close to the edge of my canvas and it's going to come up pretty far. So maybe something like that. And I'm just going to give myself a couple more here, maybe somewhere in there. Maybe I've got a couple, let's see, maybe one here. And I'm just using kind of the corner of my brush to give myself these little markers. Maybe I've got a little one here. Maybe we've got one, I would say, right about here. And you can have them in whatever height or whatever distance from one another you want. I'm going to have a couple in this land here too. So maybe this one's going to go somewhere in through here. And maybe I'll have a shorter one over here. And you can see I'm putting them pretty close together. Maybe I have a little baby one too over here. You can, again, have as many as you want. So there's my place markers, and some of them are going to merge into each other. Some of them will be in front of one another. It's all right. Whatever happens, happens. So as I do this, I'm just thinking long kind of triangle with my branches are going in many different directions. If you want it to really look like the snow is weighting it down, you would have your branches coming in a downward motion. If you want it to be like maybe they haven't had a lot of snow on them and they're still kind of in the upward motion, you can have them in an upward motion. So I'm just thinking pine tree. I'm thinking that these branches are going to come off in different directions. Maybe it hasn't snowed too heavily as of the time when we're depicting this picture, but maybe you want yours to really have your branches coming all the way down. I am just using kind of the edge or the tip of my brush. That way I can get these to almost look like branches coming out, but you want them to come out in different directions, have different lengths to them. You don't want them to all be really systematic and have the same width to them or the same direction or the same number of dots for that particular branch. This one's going to go off of my canvas on the right hand side, so I'm just kind of getting that to go off the canvas. It might end up hitting my other little tree a little bit here, so I'm just again utilizing the corner of my brush, and I want there to be little peekaboo spots where you can see the stuff behind it, so I'm not overdoing my trees. I'm kind of having them a little bit more on the skinnier side, but I'm also conscious of not letting that trunk show. So another one of my tips or tricks is to dot down the trunk. That will ensure that you have not left it too wide open, and then you can just kind of get your branches on in whatever little direction you want. If you want some flicking up or flicking down, it's all right. It works either way. But if you want them to resemble pine trees, just you want that bottom to be a little bit wider in nature than the rest of the tree. So you can see mine, I'm trying to keep that point to the top of the tree. My smaller ones, I might just dot them a couple times and call it. They might not, I don't really need much to them. And then again, just kind of dot down the center and give it as much, you know, as many branches as you want. I feel like my bristles are starting to get out of control right now, so I'm gonna re-squish my brush on the side of my palette. That again is my trick, because I really like using these bristle brushes because I think they give great diversity as opposed to, you know, one that has very systematic bristles to it. So in order for me to keep it in control, I squish it on the side of my palette. So this tree here might encroach on my waterway a little bit, or even cover up my waterway a little bit. I'm totally okay with that. I'm keeping them messy at the bottom where they meet the snow. I'm going to be doing a we're going to be doing one more step on the land, so we'll be able to get that snow to make sense at the bottom of the tree as well. But you can certainly have fun with that. And you can see I've got all these branches coming out in different directions. I think it's looking pretty good. This tree's hiding way behind it, so this tree's not going to get a whole heck of a lot of attention back here because there's not much to do to it. And then I got this little itty bitty one. Think of at times, you know, maybe they just end up looking like little shrubs or something, so you don't have to spend too much time on each one. And then let's see, we're going to switch to our small brush for the next step. So once you've got your pine trees in place, you can put your large brush away, take out your small brush, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what I'm going to do for the next step is I'm going to finish my land. So I'm using my small brush, and this is going to account for any branches that have fallen on the ground, any areas that you feel might need a little bit of fine tuning, maybe around the edges of the water or at the bottoms of the trees. So I'm going to be putting my branches just laying all strewed about the ground, and maybe I'll put little pieces of sticks and stuff coming, you know, in a vertical sense too by, you know, the trees. Just wherever my brush wants to flick, that's where a branch is going to show up, or little pieces of grass sticking up out of the snow. But I'm going to use my small brush. I'm going to primarily be using black, brown, and white. But if I come to an area where I'm like, oh, I want some more blue there because I just feel it, then I'll put it there. But I'll try and keep you up to speed as the colors I'm using. So first I'm just going to start with black and brown. And I'm going to put my sticks and any little pieces of grassy kind of stuff wherever I want to. So I'm going to just kind of let my brush work its magic. I just kind of wiggle it about. Maybe I've got some stuff coming up in through here. Maybe I've got some little stuff on the side of my tree over there. Maybe I've got some little things going in here. I'm really just making little squiggle lines. I'm not doing anything fancy. So maybe I've got some stuff in between these trees here. The less you think about it and the more you just let your brush kind of wiggle about and do its own thing, the more natural it's going to look. It's just going to look like there's sticks and all kinds of stuff just laying around the ground that, you know, the animals have brought over, or the landscaper never came and picked up. Just let it happen. Mother Nature has a way of leaving debris everywhere. So you put as much stuff about that ground as you want to. And then once I've got some, you know, enough mess around my ground, I think I want maybe just, I don't know, maybe a little more stack of them in through here. Once you've got as many little branches and sticks and stuff that you want, now's the time to just kind of fine tune the land. So I think I still have black and brown on my brush. I'm just going to kind of wipe it on my paper towel a little bit. I think I'm going to just kind of add maybe a little shadowy stuff over on this side just to make sure this looks like it's, you know, at the bottom of that hill. Maybe I'm going to pick up a little bit more white just to add a little bit more at the edge of the land. But this is really kind of just a visual thing on your part. I do recommend just kind of stepping back from the painting and saying, does it look like there needs to be a clump of snow underneath that tree? Or does it look like there needs to be a little bit of a shadow underneath that tree? I'm going to add some highlights to my sticks in a minute, but maybe the snow has, you know, piled up next to the stick. Maybe, you know, there's a shadow behind a stick. So feel free to just kind of tweak these last areas of the land as much as you want to. I am going to definitely be adding little snow pieces onto my branches in a minute, but right now I'm just kind of manipulating my land a little bit. Maybe this needs a little bit of darkness here, so maybe a little blue, black, and my white, just to give it a little bit more darkness over in this corner. Again, putting darkness at the bottom of here is going to make it look a little bit more like a hill, or like these are, you know, going out of our out of the view of the light from the sky. So you can certainly have fun with that. And I'm just kind of tweaking it as I go. Oh, I just picked up a little yellow. That's all right. And I'm gonna put some snow on my branches now that they've dried for a minute. You can just kind of put some little heavy snow. Maybe it's just resting on the top of some of these branches. And again, just have fun with it. We're going to be finishing the trees in a minute too, which will definitely give that great dimensional element to the entire painting. Right now I'm just kind of adding little dabs of snow that is just kind of resting on some of these little branches that I've strewed about the whole thing. Maybe I put a little bit more snow in through here, like maybe there's a little path or something coming in through. Oh yeah, I needed a little more snow on top of that too. Sometimes just adding a bit of another layer of whatever the remnants on your brush is, sometimes that helps to just add that extra. I mean, everything in life has layers. Our skin has layers, the ground has layers, the atmosphere has layers. So it always ends up looking a little bit more realistic when you continue to build that information on top of whatever's sitting underneath it. So you feel free to just kind of keep tweaking this. You know, maybe I want my snow piled a little bit higher there. Maybe I need a little bit more shadow in between my snow here. So really just have fun with it. Make it as dimensional as you want it to be. And then once you've got your land filled with all of your sticks and all of your dimensional elements, we're going to switch back to that large brush. And on the next step, this is another one of those steps, I'm like, can I ever finish this one? But we'll switch back to the large brush for the next step. But I think I want a little bit more shadow in between these trees before I go there. I just picked up a little bit of blue. So mostly I used white, black, blue. I think those were the only colors that I used, white, black, and blue. Maybe a little bit of brown. But again, just darkening, adding shadows. Yeah, I used brown on the branches. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. A little bit of shadow behind these because my light is over there. This looks good. All right, so large brush for the next step, and I am ready now. All right, so what we're gonna do for the next step is we are finishing our front trees. So I'm using my big brush, and I'm going to use white because I want them to look like they have a little bit of snow on them. But I don't really want to do too much to them. I want them to kind of look like they're almost, we're seeing the dark side of them, so you don't have to go too bold with the colors, but I do want there to look like, once I put the snow on there, that there's a little bit of these colors sparkled throughout them. So I'm going to use white to start. I'm going to put a little bit of snow on them and on the edges, because that's, the light is over in that direction a little bit. And then on this back side of the tree, I'm going to put maybe a little bit of gray. So I'll use black and white, so it'll be just a little bit in the shadow on the back. And then I'm going to dot in some colors from the sky. So just white is where I'm starting. And the trees that are close together, if you want to kind of decide which one is closer to you than the other, that will help to tell the story too. And I am very lightly just kind of dabbing the edge of my brush on the outside edges of the tree, because my light is over there. And I'm just using white right now. I'm not doing much, and I don't have much paint on my brush. Just a teeny tiny bit is gonna, in essence, kind of give me the glow or the brighter stuff from the other side of the tree, because that's where my light source is. And again, I'm just kind of lightly going along these edges, not too much. I'm going to do that to all of the trees. So just teeny tiny bits of the white is going along those edges. So it's telling you it's snow, but it's being lit up by the brightness either in the sky or on the other side of the tree. So again, just a little bit. I don't want to cover up all of my edges to my tree. This one's going to be definitely closer to us, so I'm going to outline or put this white on the edges of this tree. I'm going to do the same with these little guys over here. And again, I'm not doing much, just kind of tapping along those edges. Now that I've got the edges done, I'm going to pick up a little bit of black and white. So in essence, I'm kind of taking my white snow and turning it gray and putting it in the shadows. So I'm putting a little bit of gray shadow or gray snow in the shadows on the back side. It'll turn a little bit darker as it dries, so just kind of account for that. And again, I'm not doing much, just kind of adding a little bit of snow on this back side, telling the story that this is in the shadows. And then once I've got my shadowed snow on here, then I'm going to wash my brush and I'm going to start putting some of the sky color twinkled into my trees. So you might find that you've got a little bit, you made accidentally or on purpose some green, you've got some peach, you've got some yellow, you've got some pink. So feel free to kind of play with it like you did on the land. It doesn't have to be a mirror image like the water. It's just twinkles all along your trees. So I'm going to just arbitrarily kind of pick up some of the colors that I have on my palette that worked in my tree or in my sky. So I've got a little bit of that greenish color, and if you bring it outside of the tree a little bit, that you can't even really see. So I think I need a touch more white on my brush. There you go. If you bring it a little bit outside the tree, that will help to make it look a little bit brighter if it's not on top of that black. And again, I'm not going crazy. I'm just kind of adding some colors here and there. Think of it almost like holiday lights, like the northern sky, the lights from the sky are adding these holiday lights on the trees below. So have fun with it. You can make these as bright as you want. I'm going to put some of my pink on there now, maybe a little bit of pink and white so you can really see it. Just dabbing it here and there. Yeah, see? Again, it's those little tiny colors in there that just get me all excited. So I've got some pink in some of my trees. Yeah, this is super fun. And again, you can have yours as dramatic as you want, as subtle as you want. I think I'm going to put, what am I going to put next? I think I want, I don't know, I really like it the way it is. Maybe I'll put some blue, because there's some blue up there. No, I don't want to put blue. I'm just digging the yellow and the pink, but maybe I'll do some green, because I see some pretty green in the sky. And then again, you can certainly have fun. You can see I'm clearly having a lot of fun on mine. Oh yeah, that looks pretty. And then once you've got your lights done, we have your lights. They're not lights. Once you've got your highlights and your snow on your trees, we have one final step to go, and it's going to be with your small brush. So you can take out your small brush, if you can ever stop, and get ready for the next step. All right, so what we're gonna do for the final step is we are gonna sign it. This is the last step of every painting. I usually sign mine in the bottom left or the bottom right. I'm gonna be doing it with my small brush. I'm gonna be using black paint. I think I'm gonna sign mine in the bottom left corner. I do my initials, but you could certainly use your first name. You could put a date on it if you want to. It's all a personal preference. This is your identifying mark. You sign it whatever way you want. You could use a symbol. Anything works. And that is going to conclude this painting. I hope you painted yourself a really alive and vibrant wintry sky and landscape. And I hope you enjoyed the process, and I look forward to painting and sipping with you again sometime.